Her, the podcast. I'm your host, Jordy Lucas. I'm the founder and editor of It's All Her. I was an actress in a previous life, and I'm a mum to a toddler. I've got a lot going on, and I have a passion for helping women live simpler, better lives. For the latest in lifestyle and entertainment news, head to itsallher.com. Welcome. This has been a really eventful last hour and a bit. I was sitting at my desk preparing the intro for this episode, and I had the Oscars on in the background. Out of the corner of my eye, I thought I saw Will Smith smack Chris Rock across the face, and I was like, hold on, paused, rewound, and yes, that is what I saw. And social media has erupted, obviously. So for a bit of context, Jada Pinkett Smith has recently opened up about her balding because she has alopecia, which is a genetic condition. And Chris Rock, for some reason, decided to make a joke that she was going to be appearing as G.I. Jane 2, and G.I. Jane is a bald character. It's a pretty poor choice of joke, but Will Smith's reaction to walk up on stage, slap him across the face, walk back down, and then yell to get his wife's name out of his fucking mouth. I don't know. I just don't know about it. I feel like, if a female comedian had made that joke, would he have got up and slapped her across the face? Probably not. Some people are saying that it was a stunt. Now, I was against that. I thought, no way would he make himself, no way would he agree to doing something that made him look so bad. But half an hour later, he takes out the award for Best Actor, and somehow he's made himself out to be this hero that protects his family at all costs, and it was this teary performance. It felt performative, about how he was a protector and how he wanted to be a vessel for love. There was also some leaked footage between a commercial break of him being comforted by Denzel Washington telling him to shake it off, and Will Smith patting tears away from his eyes. And I wondered how he had turned his wife being insulted into it being about him. Like, shouldn't he be comforting his wife who has just been humiliated? I just find the whole thing to be really self-involved, and the fact that this tearful acceptance speech played out the way it did makes me think that maybe it was a stunt. I would love to know what you think. Drop us a comment on Instagram. I'm going to post as much content on this as I can. I would love your opinion. Let's get to this week's guest. Shelly Horton is a media presenter, a business owner, and just an all-round incredible woman. Shelly and I spoke this morning about how she was trolled after revealing she didn't want any children, why she's taking antidepressants, and which Married at First Sight contestant she thinks is a sociopath. Here's my chat with Shelly Horton. Shelly Horton, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast this week. So excited to have you on and talk about your career. How has the first quarter of 2022 been for you?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me, because I'm actually a big fan of your podcast and I cannot believe how quickly this year is going. Like, it actually feels like time is speeding up. So it has been a bit crazy, but you know what? I've moved to the Gold Coast, and now that borders are open and I can pop down and back, I actually am so happy for it to be fast-paced and crazy, because I get to come back to Queensland and just exhale for a little bit.
Yeah.
I actually, on the weekend, flew to Sydney for 15 hours for two of my best friends having their birthday. So there was a 45th and a 40th, 15 hours, two parties. So I'm calling myself a FIFO. So fly in, fly out, fun gal. That's what I am.
Wow.
I'm there for the parties.
How was the flight home? I can imagine after a few champagnes, it would have been a bit dusty.
A little bit dusty. Let's just say that there was bacon involved at the airport.
I hear you. So when did you move to Queensland?
Moved to Queensland July last year. So I'm actually a Queenslander. I grew up in Queensland, but I thought I had to be in the big smoke in Sydney for my career, particularly in the media. And You know what? I did that for 31 years, and my dad wasn't very well. He had to have brain surgery, and I just felt so trapped in Sydney. And I think it's what happened to a lot of people with COVID. You start to reassess everything, and basically I just didn't want Anastasia Palaszczuk deciding whether or not I could visit my dad. So my husband actually suggested, he said, you're going to be so much happier if we are near your family. So we moved, and it did involve doing hotel quarantine one time. Then I had to come back for Sydney for work, and then I had to do home quarantine, and I got trapped in Sydney. Nothing went smoothly. But the good news is my dad as well. He had the surgery, and it was a success. And so
that's incredible.
Now I get to go fishing with him on the weekends and stuff like that, which is just stuff that I love, but I would only do at Christmas time normally. So it's been an amazing move and just incredible. And I never, ever would have even suggested it to Channel 9 if it wasn't for COVID, if we didn't start doing things via Zoom and doing things remotely. So it has really just truly improved the quality of my life, and I'm so happy.
So fantastic. And COVID, as horrendous as it's been, it has put so much into perspective.
100%. 100%. And I think and it's also made a lot of people a little bit more flexible and a little bit more understanding.
A lot more employers are flexible, I think.
Yeah.
As well.
So, I mean, I'd love to say, because I've been working with Channel 9 for 6 years, and I'd love to say that I was an absolute boss babe, and I was just like, right, here's what's happening. I'm moving to Queensland. But in fact, I lost 3 nights sleep. And then when I was speaking to my boss at Today Extra, my voice went up like 2 octaves. I was like, hi, so I'm thinking about moving to Queensland. And she's like, okay, stop, take a breath.
Yeah.
And she's like, that's great. We'd love to use you in Queensland, and you'll just do your stuff out of the Gold Coast studio. And I'm like, oh my God, I've lost 3 nights sleep over this. They were so supportive. So yeah. But again, before COVID, I don't think that would have happened. No.
So you're obviously really well established at 9.
Yeah.
But I know there would have been a huge hustle coming up to that point.
Massive.
Tell us about getting your start in the media.
So my first job as a journalist was actually in radio. So I did my degree at University of Queensland, and I did a double major in broadcast journalism. So it was very much TV and radio, no print, never wanted to do print, still don't really love writing. But anyway, but I didn't really have the confidence to go for a TV job first, because I figured I wasn't like the skinny blonde that it was all I was seeing on TV. And so that made me really focus on radio. Now, the thing is, I was really good at radio and I loved radio. So I actually topped my degree in radio. So I was, expecting I'd get snapped up. Yeah, no, that didn't happen either. So I ended up moving to Melbourne, and I worked in PR for a year. And apologies to all the people working in PR, but I felt like a prostitute. I was just writing articles like, lead, not that bad for kids. It's okay. It was not my jam. And then I was really lucky, because in my last semester of my degree, because I was in the top 5, we did 1 day a week work experience at ABC Radio in Brisbane.
Right.
Now, we didn't get paid. We didn't get credit points. We didn't, but what an opportunity. So the great thing is I actually learned how to edit, how to use their system, all of that sort of thing. So when I got down to Melbourne and I was hating this PR job, I contacted ABC and said, hey, look, I know the system. And that's part of the trouble, is like they then have to put you through the training. And they're like, okay, we can give you some weekend work. So I went in and I started doing weekend work. And so I was working 7 days a week. And then ABC's like, look, we know you've got a full-time job, but we'd love you to do Saturday and Sunday, and then Monday from 5 a.m. till 9, just to get that, the ball rolling for news. And I'm like, okay, I can do this. So I was working my tail off.
Yeah.
And then I actually fell into the crime reporter's role, which I loved.
Wow.
And you know how everyone is obsessed with like
true crime.
True crime. Well, I was living it back in the 90s, and nothing better than doing crime in Melbourne as well.
Yeah.
And then one day I got a call. I was at my PR job and I got a call from the chief of staff at ABC saying, look, I know you're at your other job, but you're the one who broke the story. And it was a horrible story about a police officer who had, it turns out, murdered his wife. But he had like disposed of the body and tried to make, look like it wasn't him. They had decided that, yes, it was murder, and they wanted to exhume the body to do, further testing. And so my boss said to me, it's up in the mountains. There's a helicopter waiting. We've got a seat for you. It's your choice. I want to offer it to you first because you broke the story. And so,
oh my God,
I'm just like, I just got up from my desk in this PR office, put my handbag over my shoulder, and just walked out. Didn't even tell them that I was leaving.
Oh,
just walked out, got into this helicopter, which in itself was so exciting.
Like crazy.
And I'm up in the mountains, and then I'm like, oh my God, I can't, I'm going to be the lead story. Like I can't, they're just going to hear me on the radio. What am I going to do? So I ended up, because by that stage I had already made friends with some of the other crime reporters. And so they thought it was hilarious that I hadn't actually quit my other job. So they got me to ring my boss at the PR place on speaker.
Oh my God.
And I got fired on the spot. And he was yelling at me like going, how embarrassing, you're an ambulance chaser, rah, 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 you're a joke. And I'm like, anyway, thanks, bye, and hung up and then just kept doing the story.
Yeah.
And luckily, ABC offered me a job the next day. So it all worked out. But it was a little bit dramatic,
That is crazy. That is amazing.
That sort of sums up my life. Nothing just goes very smoothly for me. It's all high throttle.
What's that Arnold Schwarzenegger movie where he's like, get to the chopper?
That's me. Yeah. I know. I loved it. What a memory.
Wow.
So, yeah.
And so obviously your career built from there. Yes. But tell me about shell-shocked media.
So here's the thing. I have a little bit of a problem with authority. I often fight with my bosses and I always think I'm right. So after more than 2 decades working in the media where I always fight with my bosses, I finally just went, I could probably just do this myself. Yeah. And so my husband and I, in 1 month, we both quit our jobs. We moved house. We got married in Mexico and we started Shell Shocked Media. So to me, it's like we applied the bikini wax and we just had to rip it off. Like, just if you're going to make a change, make a big change.
Yeah.
And so Shell Shocked Media has stemmed from my love of teaching other people how to present well. So I do media training for people who want to be on TV or in the public eye, but also even now, like how to present well on Zoom, how to get your background to look good, how to be persuasive and get your story across so it's interesting rather than just reciting facts. And so that's become a big chunk of our business. And then we also create online courses for other people so that they can promote their products online. So it's kind of cool. And it's the two of us 24/7 because I'm in front of the camera and also doing the producing and researching, but my husband does camera, sound, and editing. So little dynamic duo.
And how do you make that work without getting a divorce? Because I don't think my husband and I could run a business together.
It's so funny how many people say that to me, and it just works. Sure, we have tiffs, but that's what it is. It's just a tiff, or we might bicker, and it's normally my fault, and it's normally because I've booked in too much work and we're stressed and I need to pull back a bit. But honestly, I think it's about knowing that we both have very different roles. I like saying that he's the workhorse and I'm the show pony, so I'm the one with like the razzle dazzle making things work, but he is the one who gets things done. So no, we are a really good team, and proper fights, I think, in we've been running this business for, I don't know, I think 7 years now. Probably 2.
Yeah, right.
Tiffs? Well, once a month, like, but even that, it's not very much. Like
Yeah.
we call ourselves the unstoppable team, and
That's
we've
so
just got
good.
the same goals, and we know that we're setting ourselves up for an incredible, future and retirement.
Yeah.
So it's fun.
Yeah.
And I don't
So,
argue with the boss because I'm the boss.
so tell me, how important is it, I mean, within the media and being a creative, to have this business for yourself, which is like a regular, quote unquote, backup
Yeah.
job? How has that sort of helped and given you some financial reassurance, I guess, while you're chasing the media work as well?
Well, guess what? I think this will surprise you, but I would flip that mindset
Yeah.
because I treat Channel 9 as my regular job.
Yeah,
Because
right.
that's what's locked in for, I've got a day and a half a week that's guaranteed.
Yeah.
So that's my regular, that's paying the rent kind of job.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then
yeah.
my other work is much more creative and much more erratic.
Yeah.
And so I love doing the media training and the presentation training, but I also MC events, and
Mm.
I love doing that. But that also takes a lot of energy,
Yeah.
and so you've got to make sure you've got time to, like, restore yourself. So
Mm.
yeah, I guess for me it's a bit flipped, which is probably only possible because I have been working as a journalist for 28 years.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as an overnight success.
No.
And a lot of people um, think that I've had this very easy, successful career path, when in fact I love saying that my career path actually looks like an epileptic bumblebee because it's up and down and curls back and then goes
Yeah.
around, but I've just made it work.
Yeah. So let's talk about your some of your passions. You've spoken a lot about how you're really passionate about women's health and women's issues. And when I was reading about you on the weekend, something that comes up when you type in your name a lot is your choice not to have children.
Yes.
And something that I really loved that you said was that you're child free by choice. You're not childless.
Yes.
I love that. But you also
Semantics
said
are
that
important.
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
But you said that you've copped backlash for that.
Oh my God.
Like, why do people care?
I know,
One.
right?
But
Why
did
do
that
they?
affect you?
Yeah, of course it did. Of course it did. So honestly, when I wrote the first article about being child free by choice, it
Mm.
would have been 15 years ago. So back then it was controversial.
Yeah.
And it was when Twitter was like overtaking everything. And so the trolls attacked, and it was a story in the Sydney Morning Herald. So of course, we've got people bringing in opinions because you have an opinion.
Yeah.
But some of the things they said, I will never forget. So I had mainly men saying, a woman who doesn't want kids is not a real woman. You're a waste of a uterus. Um, and one of my favorites, because this is how extreme it got, was, you're so selfish, you're not breeding future taxpayers. And I'm just like, how? I was blown away,
Yeah.
and of course teary. Like, I
Yeah.
cried because it was very new to the public, talking about that women can have a choice and that you're
Mm.
not a horrible person. But that had been something that I had been personally struggling with for so many years. I actually took myself to a psychologist to see if, I'm like, have I been abused as a child, or is it like, what's wrong with me that I
Yeah.
don't want to have kids? And the psychologist was just like, oh, there is nothing wrong with you. There are no demons there.
Mm.
You're entitled to run your
Just
own
not want
race.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And look, and I'll be honest, my mum cried. Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of pressures. Like, one of my mum's friends sent her a sympathy card. Yeah. Like, that still stings to today, because she is a grandma. My brother's got kids. But
Yeah.
that's the sort of thing where I realize that you just have to be brave and speak up, because
Mm.
for all of this horrible and negativity that came towards me, I also had some incredible emails from women. And one in particular that will always stick with me was I think she was either Italian or Greek, I can't remember, but she said, I've got a big, WOG family,
Yeah.
and having kids is just expected. And she's
Yeah.
like, I've never wanted kids. My husband doesn't want kids, and I'm 32, and my parents are bringing it up every single time that I see them. And she said, I didn't know how to explain how I felt. And then I read your article and I printed it out and put it at every place setting at the family Sunday dinner
Wow.
and said, everyone, we're going to read this article and then we're going to have a talk. And she said, she cried, her husband cried, her parents cried. She said everyone was sobbing, but they finally got it. And they then accepted her decision. And she said, we are a happier and stronger family for it.
Yeah.
So I've always had this thing that it may be hurting me in the moment, but it's going to be helping other women as time progresses. And the great sort of footnote to this is that was 15 years ago. So I wrote a story for Nine Honey about it. I think it was, for a Mother's Day, story or something like that. And I got huge amount of feedback and 100% positive.
Yeah.
100%. Not even one troll. So it was mothers themselves going, it's all about choice. And geez Louise, it is so freaking hard.
Yeah.
I don't think you should go into this unless you want it 150%.
I was just going to say, I have a 2.5-year-old.
Yeah, you've got a toddler.
Challenging times. And if you didn't want it,
yeah.
But also that sort of dialogue around that you're a waste of a uterus and all that sort of stuff is so reductive. It just reduces women to that's our only purpose on this earth. And that is just so incorrect.
So incorrect. And yeah, you're right. It's so belittling. And the other thing that I hated hearing, and I got it a lot, was, oh, you'll change your mind. Oh, you just haven't met the right guy. You'll change your mind. And I'm like, well, you wouldn't say that to me about any other decision. And what if I went up to a woman who was 7 months pregnant and went, oh, you'll change your mind? How would that go down?
Yeah, not very
well. Yeah, it was surprisingly controversial. I almost felt like I was coming out of the closet or something like that. But now looking back, it was probably one of the hardest things I did. And it's probably one of the things I'm most proud of, because I know I've made a huge difference. And the fact that now it is a very accepted choice. And that's what it's about. It's about choice.
Yeah, totally. So what would your advice be for women who are perhaps realizing that they may not want what society deems is right for them?
Yeah, I think what I always say is there are so many women who just don't really think about whether or not they want kids. And they either then leave it too late and the choice is taken away from them, or they, struggle with it, or they fall pregnant by accident and then go, oh, well, okay, we're done. So I think that people who don't follow your regular societal path definitely put more time and effort into their thoughts and really process the pros and the cons and how they're feeling. I would still suggest speaking to a counselor or someone to actually talk it through, because I also found that talking it through with a counselor helped me with my arguments with other people, just because I got to verbalize it. And then I'm also completely open if someone does change their mind. So if you're sitting on the fence, like if you're just not strongly that you don't want kids and not strongly that you do, freeze your eggs. Like, make a proactive decision so that your choice is not taken away from you. So again, it's all about empowering yourself and just supporting each other. I think that I am in awe of mothers, because I think you guys work yourselves to death. You take on all of the chores. You've got the mental load. Like, there's just so much that you take on. So I don't think it should be an us and them. It should be that we lift each other up.
Totally. Something else that you've opened up is your experience with perimenopause.
Perimenopause, yes.
And I read that you were actually diagnosed, or doctors suspected that you were depressed until they found otherwise.
Yeah, that's not quite right. So 1 in 3 women who go through perimenopause get anxiety and depression.
Okay.
So what happened for me is I didn't know what perimenopause was. And to be fair, until I started talking about it, not many people do.
No.
So perimenopause is the 5 to 7 years before you hit menopause. And menopause is a very, very distinct moment in time because it's when you've reached 12 months of not having a period.
Yeah.
So it takes 5 to 7 years. Some people even longer. It could be up to 12 years. And this is what was happening for me is I was getting all these hormonal fluxes, but I was so easily brushing it off going, oh, it's COVID. As in the pressure of COVID, you know, it's lockdown and it's this and it's the other. So how it came up for me was I got depressed, and I'm not a depressed kind of person, and
you seem pretty upbeat.
And I have never had mental health struggles that haven't been warranted. So I got depressed after my divorce, but that's granted, that
Fair
makes
enough.
sense.
Yeah.
But this was like out of the blue, and I was crying every day for no reason. Like, so I was just feeling overwhelmed, and I'd start crying. And then I love that this is a girls' podcast because I can go into detail and say I had terrible periods when I was young. So I actually have a Mirena, which is like the IUD that for me stops my periods, which is amazing.
Yeah.
And I have declared it like one of the best inventions in the world. So they last for 5 years. I'm on to my third one. So I think it was 12 years of having a Mirena and not having any period. And then in September 20, the best.
The dream.
September 2020, I just started bleeding again. And again,
through
the Mirena. But again, I didn't go, that's perimenopause. I went, oh, gee, I am so stressed with COVID. I'm so stressed. Running a business is so hard. So I had all of these symptoms. I was getting hot flushes. But for me, I don't get like a flush. Like there's different types of flushes you get. I just get hot and then I can't cool down. And so then I have to physically do something to bring my body temperature down. So all of that was happening. And I still just thought it was stress or, palmed it off to anything. And then finally my husband was just like, you know what? I think we should go and speak to the GP together because you're not a teary person. And he was so incredibly supportive. And so when I went to the GP and they did my blood tests and they checked everything and they're like, actually, you're perimenopausal and we need to get you onto some HRT and we'll see that sometimes can just fix the depression. And so I went on to HRT and it really helped with a lot of other things, but it didn't actually help with my depression. So then we tried one antidepressant and it didn't work. And I don't know, like I'm sure there's a lot of people listening who are very used to antidepressants. I have never been on them. So I didn't know that when you go on one, you then have to wean off it before you can try another one. So by the time I tried the second antidepressant, it had been almost 6 months of me feeling awful, just awful. And including the fact that I would go into Channel 9, do my segment, which normally fills me with joy. And I'd drive home going, well, that was a waste of time. You sound like an idiot on national TV. I don't know why you even bother doing this. Like that horrible, which is, again, the chemicals in my brain were not right. And then I finally got the right antidepressant and it was like, ta-da, I'm back. I was like, oh my God. So that's when I actually wanted to yell to the world, I didn't know about this. Do you guys know about it? And so I've kind of made it a bit of a passion project for me because I am so sick of taboo topics and particularly around women's health and particularly where the symptoms can be brushed off as this, that, and the other. So I really want to break down the stigma. And I've said very, very loudly on my social media, I am going to be shouting from the rooftops. And I'm super lucky because it worked out well that I've actually just hosted a an online course for Benefit Pocket, and Benefit Pocket is free to download. It's an app.
Yeah.
But then the menopause course you buy, but it is basically an explainer. It's like menopause 101, perimenopause 101, and we've got doctors and scientists and psychologists, Chinese herbalists. We've got, all the range, because there are some women who may not be able to go into HRT. I think HRT is the best thing since sliced bread.
What is HRT? Can you explain
So it's hormone replacement therapy. So what's happening, they actually like to call it menopause hormone therapy, because I don't know, it's all been changing. And I'm just like, it's HRT, people. There was a study years ago, like 20 years ago, that said HRT causes breast cancer, and that has been completely disproven.
Yeah.
And so people like my mum, their GP said to them, I'm not putting you on HRT, it causes breast cancer. Yeah. And so all of these women have been putting up with all of these symptoms for so long for no reason. So what this basically does is the HRT replaces the fact that your estrogen is dropping. So I kind of describe it as my ovaries are spluttering like a backfiring car towards the end.
Yeah.
Until they finally shrivel up and there's nothing there. So you're basically evening that process out.
Yeah.
I actually read something on the weekend that I absolutely loved, and it said you've got to not think of it as a negative thing, because the symptoms feel so negative. They said just think of it as a reboot. Like everything has to shut down and then you blossom again. Yeah. So I kind of like that. I'm like, it's going to be like Shelly 2.0, or maybe we should call it Shelly 5.0 because I'm 48, So I think that the Benefit Pocket course is what I wish I had before I realized I needed it. So I love that you're talking about this. I love that younger women are helping educate each other, because this is like, I just feel, again, I've gone from the taboo topic of child-free by choice to the taboo topic of perimenopause, but this is kind of my purpose. This is how I help people. And I spoke to Benefit Pocket, and I'm going to do a big plug here, so you can do a little ka-ching. But if any of your listeners want to download the course, if you use the code Shelly, SHELLY 40, they get 40% off.
Oh, wow. Okay, 40%. I'll definitely put that in our show notes.
Yeah.
That's
so it goes from like $169 down to $100. So I would just say
such valuable information as well.
Absolutely. And I think valuable to know for yourself, valuable to identify things for your friends. Even like, I spoke to my mother about it, and she had the worst time. And yet when I said to her, Mum, I'm having to go on to antidepressants because the perimenopause is so hard, and she just went, chin up. Because that was her generation.
That was the generation.
They were the soldier on generation. So I think the more we start speaking about these things, the more it's going to help. And I'm also working on a brand new online course that I haven't even filmed yet, but I'm on it, about menopause in the workplace, because I think that there are a lot of women who just struggle in silence and have to deal with hot flushes and brain fog and all of these symptoms. And there are such easy ways to help, like providing a desk fan or having access to cool water. Like, it's my
little things.
It's my thing. And it's kind of like, it's such a passion at the moment. And I think if I'm going to beat the drum, I'm going to beat it loud,
Yeah, totally. And I think we don't realize how, as women, health issues and our mental state are so intertwined. Like our hormones play such a huge role in our mental health.
Absolutely. And if you think about it too, one of the symptoms of perimenopause is night sweats and insomnia. So you take sleep away on top of these other symptoms, and it's torturous.
Yeah.
So I think the more we talk about it and we just make it, it's just a natural part of aging. It's just what we do.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but 100% of women are going to go through this. So why is it only in 2022 that we're actually talking about it?
Yeah.
And I think it's held women back for so long.
Totally. I will definitely put all the links for Benefit Pocket and
Yay!
that discount code in our show notes. Changing the topic completely, you obviously consume a lot of media.
Oh my God.
I'm guessing as a commentator,
oh my God,
consume
it's
a lot.
overwhelming. Yeah.
What are you reading, watching, listening to? What are you loving at the moment?
I kind of love this because when I listen to your other podcasts, it's like I write things down and I'm like, oh, good, I want to watch that.
Yeah.
At the moment, okay, so obviously I cover the news. So I'm giving opinion pieces. So I'm on so many different sites, and I feel like you have to be on a lot of sites to have an opinion, not just read the one that you want to read.
Yes.
So that's interesting. But I have a lot of trouble getting to sleep, and I'm not surprise, surprise, I'm not really good at meditating. I've got a very busy brain.
Shocking.
I have become addicted to listening to an Audible book before I go to sleep, right? So I've tried a few different things, and I can't do a self-help. I can't even do an autobiography. It needs to be like trashy fiction.
Yeah.
And it needs to be great. So I've got 2 recommendations because I'm obsessed with both of these female authors.
Yes.
One is the Australian author Candace Fox. So her latest book, The Chase, it's set in America, but it's a prison that basically all the detainees get let out at once and just chase and run across the country. It's fabulous. And then my other favorite is an American author called Taylor Jenkins Reid. And if you haven't listened to Daisy Jones and the Six, it's one of those Audible books that the only way to listen to it is an Audible book. And now Reese Witherspoon is turning it into a movie because it needs to be a movie. It's amazing. But I'm one of those people that when I find an author I like, I then go deep. So I've probably now, and I don't say I read books anymore. I've listened to, I like to say, I like my books read to me. You can read me to sleep. I've probably read about 6 of Candace Fox books and about 6 of Taylor Jenkins Reid's books in the last year. Like, just love them and have not been disappointed by any of them. So that's amazing. And then, of course, with TV, oh my God, I'm exhausted by the start of this year because, of course, I watch Maths and Survivor and SAS, and they're all on the same nights. That's exhausting.
That is a lot.
So it all wraps up next week, thank goodness, because I need my life back. And I've been like watching Maths live and then watching Survivor on catch up, and then watching it's too much. It's too much.
Okay,
so I need to calm
talk about
down.
Maths though, because that's my obsession. Last night's episode, the dinner party. Oh,
Ella,
my God.
Ella deserves so much more. And Liv, oh my goodness.
Oh,
this is where
I was so uncomfortable watching
her face and her eyes. Like, she was like, it's like another person
Intense.
Took over. I think that the experts actually should have had a separate session with her about this lack of empathy. Because that is the sign of a sociopath. And and how the hell is she going to get a job as a primary school teacher if she has no empathy? Like, seriously, her only choice is to be an influencer now because she has ruined her career.
Yeah.
But and also, like, I think I could go on forever. I think that Dom is over the top and she has been really opinionated, but I could not stand the slut shaming. I could not stand the fact that's this again, it's like, catch up, girls. You're so behind the times.
Totally.
But I loved that some of the boys really stood up for her. So it's the show. It's such a train wreck. I hosted Talking Married for 3 years. So I mean, I was obsessed. And my husband was always like, oh, I'm not going to watch that trash. And then he watches 1 or 2 episodes and he's like, oh, it's like crack. He's like, I'm addicted. And now he watches and he yells at the TV.
Oh, and like my husband will come in and be like, oh, so what's happening with them now? Like, he is interested. There is interest there.
Yeah. I had one point where because I'd get screeners and watch them early because I was doing the live show. My husband would just go, he's like, no, I don't want to watch it. I said, oh, I'm just going to hook my computer up to the big screen so I can watch it properly. And then he would like wander past the couch, and then I'd look around and he's still standing there like 20 minutes later. I'm like, just sit on the couch, give in to your addiction.
It's so good. Finally, we are all about making life simpler and better for women. How do you do this for yourself?
I wish I could say that it was easy. It's not. Last week I had a meltdown because I just booked too much stuff in, and I'm the one who creates the deadlines, and I had a cry. So please don't think in any way I'm perfect. But what I have been doing, which has really helped, particularly since we moved to Queensland, is we've been doing walks on the beach at the end of the day with the puppy dogs. And there's something about being near the water that just washes the stress away. And then the other thing I've done, because I am perimenopausal and I get very hot, is I've started deep water running. So it's take your running and put it in a pool. So you wear a float belt so you can't touch the ground, and you run in the water, but you're neck deep, and you stay nice and cool. And I have just found it so great on my joints, and yet you burn a lot of calories because you're pushing against resistance both ways. So those are my two little tips.
Fabulous.
And probably just finish up with just cut yourself a break. Be a bit kind to yourself.
We're our own worst critic and enemy, aren't we?
Absolutely. I love I again, I sound like I'm at the shrink all the time, but I'm not. But
we all should. I am so big. Everyone should be at the shrink. Look, like everyone needs therapy. Yeah.
But I actually went to a counselor when I'd had some particularly bad trolling and stuff like that. And he said to me, speak to yourself as if you were your best friend. So just put yourself in the position that you're in right now. And what would your best friend say to you? Your best friend would be like, you've got this. I'm so proud of you. Clear up some space, make some priorities. And you'd be so positive instead of you're a failure. You're stupid. All that. I kind of like that. Be your own cheerleader. Totally. Be your own cheerleader.
Amazing to finish off on. Shelley, thank you so much. I have loved chatting with you. And again, all those links will be in our show notes. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I love chatting. Let's do it again next week.
Let's do it. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of It's All Her. If you have loved this episode, please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen. Share it with a friend, and I'll be back in your ears next week.